Broads Media.
Alrighty, 76ers basketball. Hot in the streets, huh? Hey, if you're new to the channel, hello, welcome on in. We break down Philly sports every day. You can join by hitting the subscribe button, hitting the thumbs up button as well. Thank you all so much. I greatly support it. Nope, I greatly appreciate it that you're supporting. And if you are looking to take me on the road with you, that sounds like a lovely car drive. You can search Sports Talk with Broads in Apple Podcast and Spotify, and you can leave a 5-star rating and a review. Follow over there. That will mean the world to me. And lastly, we do have memberships here where you get access to Coffee with Broads live streams twice a week and our Discord channel where we get to communicate about when these streams are going live, and through games we communicate. It's super fun. All the information is down below. Thank you all so much and enjoy the show. What's up, everyone? Let's continue this dialogue, this back and forth, if you will, about Paul George. And I somewhat have a collection of mini topics here to make up a show, and plus we will react to all your phone calls into the Anytime Hotline. So I'm looking forward to it. I know the holiday weekend is coming up, and sometimes that messes with the mojo of some recordings and pods, but I just can't stop processing what the Sixers did here, and I'm really trying to figure out if it's worth it to jump back in seriously. Like, how should I attack this with my emotions? I don't want to be stupid, you know? And what sparked this thought was I was listening to WFAN, up in New York, which is their version of WIP, and their midday host is a huge Jets fan, and he was talking about how he was going on a trip with his family. And it was his son, his wife, and his son, who's getting into sports, asked him when he was driving, are the Jets going to be any good this year? And he says, yeah, they are, buddy. And his wife gives him the tap, the look, like, you're doing this again? You're really believing in this again? And he goes, what? And he starts to rattle off about how they're getting help on the offensive line. And I'm in tears cracking up because he's so down bad that his wife even knows, come on, dude, you're full of shit. I mean, this team is going to get obliterated and probably break you down again. Don't be a fool. And he's getting sucked right back into it. He's probably been saying that to her for the last 20 years in the summertime as the fall season awaits and football gets ready to kick off. His poor son is going to be stuck as if it's much easier being a Sixers fan. And that's my whole point, is I'm cracking up because I'm thinking about it from our perspective here in this city. Oh, dude, you do this every year with Joel Embiid. So is it worth it to dive in? And here's my answer. All right, drum roll, please. Yes. Yes! Of course. Of course. I mean that. All jokes aside, looking at the Joel Embiid era, the 1 year with J.J. Redick, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, that was enough skill level to get it done. The only reason I feel this could be second in line in the best chance to do it all, the only reason why I think this might be a little different is the state of Joel Embiid then versus now. He was always good. This is top 3, top 4 in the entire NBA level of skill. The projection was one day he could reach that, but in those games, when he was still under Brett Brown, he was so raw. You have to learn how to win at a different level in this league, as if this isn't enough to know that. Right? I mean, for as lethal as he is, there are still problems getting over that hurdle. So this Joel is more ready. And we still are struggling, but he is still more ready. I know that sounds outrageous. Seriously, I feel ridiculous even saying that. But if you're working with me here and really following, the pieces line up. I feel that Tyrese Maxey is better than Jimmy Butler was on that team. Jimmy displayed his ego louder. Jimmy definitely has more on the alpha scale. But I feel Tyrese Maxey, and once again, it's not a rookie Tyrese Maxey anymore. It's a Tyrese Maxey sitting in an all-star position already and going to get a fat back $200+ million for this kid. That's sickening. And then he hits the gym and starts putting in the work the day after. A nice little family dinner, a nice little ho-hum. Appreciate you for driving me to practice when I was 2. Here's a cupcake, make a wish. All right, now let's go work on that 15-footer. Oh, yeah, let's go work on my finishing at the rim so when I take on contact, I'll earn free throws. That's the second time in about 3 days that I've mentioned that. So if it's clear I don't have a full focus on one particular growth spot in his game, a lot of that is him just earning more respect from the stripes, but also burying through contact and how he attacks that rim. It could get hostile down there. Let's earn some and ones. But anyway. Is this version of Maxey better than Jimmy was at? Skill-wise, yes. Attitude, no. Yeah. Skill level, yes, though. Tyrese Maxey is different. His numbers that he has put on display here, just getting started in his career, it's magnificent. The one thing I wish that could be different, though, is having a real point guard next to him instead of pretending that the natural position for him is the ball in his hands. There's a difference between being a point guard at the NBA level in fourth quarters of closeout games, not just regular season action. This is the disparity between the league. Furkan Korkmaz can play NBA regular season games. Again, he can make shots and play that up and down pace. That dude doesn't deserve a second of touching the floor in playoff ball. So that's the difference in running an offense as well, running an entire team and running it as the guy with 2 minutes to go in an NBA playoff third round. There's a difference between that and surviving and being okay at it. He's naturally a 2. Yes, you can publish combo next to his name, but he's a 2. If they could get a real 1 next to him, he could even flourish even more. And I'm not Mr. Expert financially, the Sixers' second apron and the mid-level exception, all this stuff. It is getting wild for me. I'm listening to Derek Bodner, who's probably one of the best in the city at actually number crunching, and you could hear it in the way that he's trying to deliver it to us. Not that he doesn't grasp it. He grasps it, but it is absolutely so ridiculous to try and figure out all these rules and all this new CBA and this. I can't keep track. So just from a let's be in the barber shop, let's put our feet up maybe by the campfire and have a couple cold ones, that type of BS in conversation. If you could have landed a Chris Paul, forget the numbers, but that style of point guard, I would have loved it. Quite frankly, I probably would have leaned into trying to figure that whole thing out. Now, I'm aware that he signed and they're going to expect him to start and all this stuff, and that's fine, but I just think that that would be phenomenal. Now, when looking at the starting 5, what do we have here? Right now, they're looking for a 4. I saw that they were interested in Finney Smith. I like that. I like that. I don't know how we ever, by the way. I mean, in what world? How dumb are some of us? There's a debate happening online on if the Sixers should go and grab Ben. Forget the financials. I don't give a fuck if they get. Think about all that cash that man's earning. But I digress. The fact that it's even a thought straitjackets. I want the whole city of Philadelphia in straitjackets because I don't know which one of you are that sick or that psycho. Never in my life would I ever feel obligated to call him. And the reason I bring that up is there is a real fear when looking at the starting five that they don't have that good of a passer. Joel passes out of a double team. It does result in some turnovers, but he has improved insanely in that area in his game. Insanely. Maxey's okay at it, but they're missing a 4, and they need a good passer. And what would Ben Simmons be when he actually wanted to play basketball early in his career? Ding, ding, ding. Plus, it could help out with size and defense. This guy is a joke. A joke. And there is so much just muddiness. I'll try and keep it as PG as I can and as clean as I can. For whatever reason, that's what, you know why? It's because I know I hate him to my core. So, see what's happening? My body is actually shaking. Actually. Don't know if it's the caffeine. Could be. No! No! You sickos! That's what I have to say about Ben. There's a second name, though, that I was hearing. Markelle Fultz. So I actually don't mind that thought for content purposes. I don't hate him at all compared to the way that I hate Ben. I actually give Markelle Fultz a ton of respect for how he handled that situation in his career. He just faced it the best way he could. I'm not telling you I loved every way that he went about it at the time, but going through that and the way that he has kept kind words about Philadelphia, he never ever takes shots at us. He's always said the right things and held his head high. So from a content level and from a person level, I wish he was just better at shooting the basketball from behind the arc. He is that terrible that I don't think it would be even worth it. Really, I think he's that bad shooting behind the arc that it's not going to accomplish what we need it to accomplish. Sure, he can maybe get a couple assists in there, play a secondary ball handler off the bench type role, and he can get a few points and all, but it is so wildly bad what his three-point shooting is. But then I think of a TJ McConnell, for example, and he's just someone who's able to run it down for a bit. And can he just do something like that? It's this pesky little guy. In Fultz's case, it would be more just about pesky in that athletic way, and he's got good size, and he can go to the basket, and he can score 2 points. And, just keep the thing moving. Keep it going until you get back to your starting lineup. And I guess maybe I'm kind of talking myself more into it now. Once I saw just the 3-point percentage smack me in the face when I'm like, let's see what the kids even. I know he turned it around a little bit in Orlando, but to what degree? And do you think he could get over the whole, not nostalgic because it's not good times, but the bad times of what he was going through mentally? I do think so. I think he could get by that, and we would love it. We would eat that up big time, giving him his standing ovations, cheering for him nonstop. Now, do I believe any of this is happening? No. This is just a couple of days removing yourself from the signing of Paul George, and then chaos happens, and you wonder about Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz for some reason, but that's what dominated some of the airwaves today, so I figured I would just put my stamp on it, and that's how I feel about both of those men. One I despise like no other. The other, it would be fun for content, and I think he'd be all right, fine, but that 3-point shooting, I don't know what they're going to do primary ball handling wise. Right now on their roster, as they look for a 4, do they do Maxey, Gordon, Oubre, Paul George, Joel Embiid? I know they still have moves to be made with their roster, but is that something that they may look at? I think I like that most I know some of you are thinking out there because you're way too knee-jerky off of what he did in college, but they will love the idea of throwing the smallest backcourt out in Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. By the way, Jared McCain seems to be no joke from a mental side of the game. I love it. I really do think that he's a Tyrese Maxey 2.0. Now, I'm not telling you he's going to flourish the same exact way, but I do feel it is this younger version of an athlete. And just listen to how he handles himself from a social media level. Forget if you agree with his dances on TikTok, if you like the TikTok dances or not. That's not what it's about. And I also think a lot of you older gentlemen and a lot of you, sorry, I'm moving my whole screen. I do think some of you older gentlemen need to realize that you don't have to relate to the 20-year-old NBA athlete anymore. It's not your job to connect to how they paint their nails or they don't paint their nails. It doesn't matter. But I do like the idea of his mindset when going through this stuff. He's not naive. He knows it's out there. And I just feel that it won't break him down. There's nothing that's going to be said. As much as we take pride in our thick Eagles blood, our thick Phillies blood, how much we are so involved in the Sixers. And when we do, there are bad people in the bunch that go overboard. But my point is, we take so much pride, and it could be hard here if you don't connect with us, this and that. These kids who have 2 million, 3 million followers on TikTok, and if you see how the TikTok comments are for these high-profiled people, there's nothing that could be said in a basketball arena from someone in Section 212 that he hasn't heard 80 million people say on social media to him already. I'm not saying that's a good thing, because that sucks that the ones on the internet have to deal with just horrible humans. But he knows, he's aware, and I think he's going to handle it very well.
Even since high school, I've had the social media. I've gotten hate since high school. I've painted my nails since high school, so I understand. The TikToks always are going to come into play after one bad game. I understand it. But going to Duke.
What are they going to say? You already know what they're going to say.
Yeah, it's going to be like, I've been on Twitter. It's going to be like, Joel Embiid says, Jared, we need to make a three. And it's like Jared McCain, and then it's going to be one of my TikToks. I already know what it's going to be. But Duke, I think going to Duke set me up for that. I already know what's going to come with it, and I'm prepared for it, and I just embrace it. I try to just work as hard as I can and prove everyone that I belong here.
I love it. I really do. I love it. I think the kid's got a good head on his shoulders, and I'm excited to watch him really grow. I think we have a Tyrese Maxey 2.0-ish in our hands and in our grasps, but I don't want to start him. That's very rough. That's very tough. It's very difficult. I don't think that suits this team best, and their mindset is to do one thing. It's time to go win a championship. If you were a team that's ascending and, you're maybe in the 7th, 6th seed trying to make that jump to be more of a 4th seed, and you're just making increment steps to get to what you want to eventually accomplish, and you have time to see what this kid could be 2-3 years down the road with starting minutes, right? That's not now. We're trying to win a championship. Eric Gordon is here as a savvy vet who can knock buckets down for us, right? So I don't know if he's going to be able to stay upright at his age for the long duration. Batum is almost the perfect look for what we wanted, but apparently he wanted to make a business decision with the family and get back out to L.A., and I thought it was either Philadelphia or, hey, I'm going to retire because I put in my hours and I'm punching out my timesheet for the last time. But instead, he's just going to go kick it back to L.A. Now, I Batum, that's what we needed. We needed that out of him. I guess right now it would be what I laid out. Embiid at the 5, Paul George at the 4, Oubre at the 3, Gordon at the 2, and Maxey at the 1. I wouldn't even be against telling Kyle Lowry, this is your job. You're the number one guy. You are going to run our offense even at your age, and have it be Lowry, Maxey. Lowry, Maxey, Oubre, Paul George, Embiid. Ideally, I would have Oubre be more of a bench player. Ideally. I don't think they're going to be able to be deep enough to land that. So before we get to the Anytime Hotline, I did see a clip, and I was trying my very best to find it again, and I just couldn't, so it sucks. I wanted to play it for you. But it was Pat Bev on his podcast, and he was talking about the worst and best passers of his entire pro career, and man, was he saying some things about Paul George and his inability to pass like others. If you're playing with James Harden and he dishes the rock, the ball is perfect and the seams are where they need to be, and it's just catch and shoot. And he was asked, how does that happen? How does he do that? And he's like, dude, I have no fucking idea. That's how good James Harden is at passing. But Paul George, it's making spins and turns like he's never seen before. He'd catch it, he'd have to maneuver it back into space, and as he tries to dip, everything's out of rhythm, and he was like cracking up. One of the worst passes. This thing is going in so many different directions, and the way that he says it, the delivery's way better than anything I just spewed out. It was good. It was quality, but man, they don't have that many good passers right now. They really don't. It's not good. It's not good. Okay, let's go to the phones. Let's start things off with Ethan.
What's going on, bro? It's really good start to free agency by the Sixers, man. I know we overpaid Paul George, but I'm so happy he's here, and we didn't have to trade for him. So depending on what we do, we might be able to keep a guy like Jared McCain on the roster. And Andre Drummond, what a signing for Daryl Morey that was. We have a legitimate, good backup center now behind Joel Embiid, which is huge. Then bringing back Kelly Oubre. I know you don't like Kelly Oubre, but we got a guy with guts who's not afraid to shoot the ball now. Speaking of another guy who's not afraid to shoot the ball, we got Eric Gordon. Well, I think he's a little old for a vet minimum. It's not a bad deal. Me, traditionally, I've been a Daryl Morey hater. I thought he could have gotten Halliburton and some things like that, but he's proven me wrong today, and I'm happy to be wrong. I'm also really happy that we re-signed Tyrese Maxey. It is crazy that Cade Cunningham is making more money on his contract than Tyrese Maxey. Like, that is a good-ass deal for us. Yeah, I've been a Morey hater. I'm wrong. I was wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. Go Sixers, man. I'm excited for this.
All right, thanks, Ethan. I appreciate the call. A lot of good stuff in there. The Daryl Morey thing is fascinating. So before we get to see the results of the season, I want to ask the question now, and I'll probably consider doing a full show on this at one point because I'm smiling from ear to ear in my brain thinking about it. But before we get to see the results, so we can't play the hindsight 2020 for the real, I despise Daryl Morey people that won't admit that maybe they made a poor choice of words in the past about Daryl. Ethan, very considerate human, very good man, all right? Understands. Did Daryl Morey deserve respect for what he did with the situation of this offseason? Answer it now, today, based off of what he was handed. And I keep hearing this. Are we better than Boston? No, then it's not good enough. There was nothing they could have done to get past Boston this offseason. So what do you do then? I'll put you into Daryl Morey's shoes, the GM chair. If he can make it better, and I put you in his spot, what would you have done differently to make them surpass the Boston Celtics? If you give me a real, honest assessment on how it would have been done, go ahead. Then by all means, maybe you should apply. JoshuaHarris@gmail.com. Take a flyer. Could be a cool story one day. You got to admit that Daryl Morey deserves some recognition here. Forget about how they ended their Sixers tenure. But first off, he drafted Tyrese Maxey, and this is going to go down as, if he plays out his career the way that we see it happening, and there's no reason to believe it won't, one of the best Sixers ever, It wouldn't be shocking if Maxey reaches that type of piece. I'm not telling you he's the best ever, but he's talked about as Joel Embiid will always be talked about in town. Allen Iverson will always be talked about. Dr. J will always be talked about. Can I see Tyrese Maxey being an all-time Sixer? Yes. Daryl Morey drafted him. And it wasn't an obvious pick. People passed up on him and passed up on him and passed up on him. So credit Daryl Morey. He got James Harden here. James Harden is one of the best 75 NBA players ever. Not giving you any opinion here. It's just one of the facts. He has one of those jackets. Paul George is now a Sixer. People don't come to Philadelphia to play basketball when the West Coast is in play, where there's so much money now that Miami and the taxes are always talked about as a destination for a reason. It's real. So I'm just saying, Daryl Morey goes and gets stars. It may bother you, but not many presidents of basketball operations can open up the Rolodex and get people to this town right now. And it also says a lot about Joel Embiid, because you wouldn't do it if you didn't believe in it. Yes, money talks, but there is a real belief that we can make this thing work. And Joel and Maxey and Nick Nurse, that's a hell of a combination. We can actually do damage. That's the players' minds. That's the way they should think. But there is a belief in Joel, league-wide. All right, let's go to Andre in Vancouver.
Broads. Wow, what a big move. Holy. I got to admit, though, I'm not totally excited about it, because I thought the era of the big three was done. I thought this was more about, building a solid team, depth and everything. And I don't see a lot of depth on this Sixers team right now. I mean, the backup for Embiid, that was big, bringing Andre Drummond back. But I don't know. I remember one thing that Paul George said, is that the reason why he didn't like the Harden trade is because the Clippers got rid of their, I believe he said dirt guys. Guys that, do the little things, hustle, rebound, play defense. I'm looking at the Sixers roster, and who's going to do that? Who's going to be that guy, that dog on that team, right? I know we have a lot of three-point shooters right now, but I don't know. I want us to sign a couple more dogs, guys those 3-and-D guys. So
It's fair. It's a fair thing to bring up, and I don't think it's crazy to wonder if there's enough. And yes, it seems one way the league is trending is everyone zigging with the New York Knicks mold and the Boston Celtics mold and this deeper team mold, whereas Daryl Morey is taking a zag approach, and maybe to his credit, it pays off eventually. Maybe not. Maybe these guys are too old in their career, and the reason why he's able to get these big stars, which I just gave him credit to, is everyone's going in a different direction from these big stars, so that's making it plausible for Daryl Morey more than the presence of Daryl Morey and his ability. And I won't rule that out. Look, I actually think that there's probably true legitimacy to it, but reality is a lot of this is the timing won't allow for you to go that route. I don't believe that you are in position where if you wanted to go with a different philosophy, you can. I don't think you can because of the current state of Joel Embiid and the max contract slot and this and that. Like, one of the callers just brought it up. Cade Cunningham, what he's making, these contracts are so massive that if you wanted to break up certain deals to get multiple different guys, even that C or B level guy costs $1 billion. So the numbers are so astronomical, and these second aprons are in place, and they changed what happens after the luxury tax. And I mean, it is bonkers. And then you lose your mid-level exceptions. It's crazy. So I don't know if building it that way, you just don't have time to organically let it grow. It's sort of, this is what we have to do to try and maximize Joel. I'm sorry if it's not what everybody else is doing, but the alternative is to blow it all up and start from ground zero, and we're not willing to do that yet. We may get there. We may get there, and yes, then that means we might lose some value because we're pushing Joel Embiid 2 or 3 years later down the timeline, but the payoff is keep attacking and go going for it, and we value that more than the assets right now because we still believe there could be a chance. And I can't knock that mentality at all. So it's not the same as others when the other teams are zigging. Either one, this helps you stand out as you zag, or it's just because it's by default. And the alternative is we got to restart all over again. And while that might be soon, it might not be very far out of the crosshairs, it's not now. It's not now. So it's just fascinating. I know I rambled a little more than I wanted to. There are still a bunch more anytime hotline calls, and if you want to react, you can, 856-442-9805. For any further Sixers discussion, I will use these in later shows to get the reaction of what Daryl Morey has done, and more focusing on the Paul George front. It's a holiday weekend coming up here, so we'll see what Morey does as we wait along, and I'll react to your calls if you do want to chime in. So thank you guys all so much. These are my thoughts, and I'll see you on the next one.